Okay, so this video is going to be an explanation of the new Paper Mario Practice ROM. As of this recording, 1.0 has not actually been released yet, but if you're watching this on YouTube, it is released. I'm planning on releasing this at the same time. So instructions on how to download and stuff will be in the description. This video won't be about like installing, it'll just be like once you have it going, this will be how to use it. And a quick thing before I like fully get started, I want to like give a couple thanks to people. So first and foremost, thank you to Glank and GZ, the Glank made GZ the Ocarina of Time practice ROM. So big thanks to him, and especially for making it in a way that it can be used for other N64 games like Paper Mario, and a lot of the code is lifted straight from GZ, so this would not have been possible otherwise. Second, big thank you to Fig and Krim. Fig was the one who decided to start getting this project going in the first place. He has since stopped working on it, but was definitely very helpful with that. And Krim was very helpful also in the beginning with getting it working and stuff. So that was very nice. And then last but not least, big thank you to the Paper Mario decompilation team. Pape Decomp has been huge for getting a lot of the features working and just figuring out how the game does stuff underneath. And so again, a lot of the stuff that you're going to see here would have been either impossible to figure out or just much more difficult otherwise. So let me go ahead and get started. And one other thing, if you are using this and you encounter any crashes or any weird things from being in a weird state, that is not a bug. The way that this is implemented is it's designed to basically be as hands-off with the way the game actually runs as possible. So if you do something like you switch to Peach and you take Peach somewhere she's not supposed to be, and the game crashes, that is not a bug. That is just the game behaving how the game behaves. And so with that in mind, that's why I would suggest whenever you start using this, I would recommend playing mostly normally up until you get Goombario, which is where this file is. There's some game state stuff that can behave really strangely up until by the time you have Goombario, you have a badge, you have a partner that you can open the partner menu, stuff like that. So would recommend playing up to this far. Okay, but with that said, the way that you interact with this practice hack, the main way that you do it, it's technically, you usually don't hear it called this, but it's technically called the utility menu. And so you bring that up by you hold the R button and press D-pad up, and that brings up this menu. And so you can start navigating it with the D-pad, up and down, and then you select things with L. So if I select the return button, it just goes back and it closes again. So the first thing that I want to show is very not related to the game itself, but if you open the settings menu, this is the menu where you can configure how you want everything to look and all that stuff. So for instance, there are different fonts you can select. So you can, I press L, this starts flashing, which means that I can select it and I start pressing up. I can change through all these different fonts. You can select one that you like. This press start 2P is the default. It's the one that I'll be using. You can also turn drop shadow on and off. You can move different menus around. I'm not going to show every single menu, but if I click this and start moving it around, you can, maybe if your TV doesn't show something. If you hold Z while you're moving it, it'll actually move a little bit faster. You can go down here, this bottom button, restore defaults, which will set everything back to normal. And then beyond that, you can save your settings. So if I hit save settings, that will actually save all these settings that I have. It will remember them on boot. It will load profile 0, which is the default. So you've got 4 different profiles you can choose from, and that gets saved actually to the save file. Whenever you save your game, with the save block or something, it uses that same save file. It's separate, no matter which, if you load file 1, 2, 3, or 4, it'll still load profile 0 here. But basically, you can upgrade your version and the settings will still be there because it's using the same save file, stuff like that. And then another very important menu to mention, we've got the commands menu. And every button shortcut that I tell you about is actually completely configurable. So I told you, the default to open this menu was R and D-pad up. But you can change that. So say you wanted it to be like R and then L. So you can hit L here to select this, and then I would hold R, then L, let go, and then now R and L is the shortcut to open that. I'm gonna keep that as R and D-pad up because that's what I like it as. And all this stuff gets saved. You can keep it all. And then there's a whole bunch of other like little things you can do that are just nice. Levitate. If you hold levitate, Mario will actually go flying in the air. Turbo, we turn turbo on, Mario moves around really fast. You can save position and move over here. You can load position, and you can see all of these have shortcuts, so you don't have to have this menu open to do that. LZS is easy LZS. You turn that on, easy LZS enabled. You can like go into a loading zone, nothing happens, but then you can like move to where you would want to do LZS, open a menu, close it, boom. And then that's as though you had done LZS over to that location, which is cool. Oh, and another thing, I guess I didn't mention this before. If you open and close the menu, it remembers where you were. So the same combo, R and D-pad up to open and close. Another couple really nice things, you can just reload the last room that you were in. That also works if you're like encountering an enemy. Reload a couple things that aren't bound by default, which you can set to be bound, like reload the last warp. We'll get into warps later. Show coordinates, like shows a little menu with coordinates on screen. A few other things that I will get into later, but that's the basic idea for the commands menu. And just settings in general. Okay, so that's basically settings. So let's move on to actually like stuff that'll help you with the game. All right, so warps. Warps are really nice for just getting around everywhere. There's 3 different types of warps, I guess. We've got locations, which I went through and named every single room in the game. Locations in this game are organized into 3 different values. You have your group, room, and entrance. Group is like the general area. You can think of it like a folder. So like Goomba Village, Toad Town, Sewers, Whale, Peach's Castle, stuff like that. You can see use these arrows to like cycle through them. Like say I want to go to Koopa Bros Fortress, and then I want to pick this specific room. Outside Fortress, Inside Fortress. Let's just go to Outside Fortress. Actually, let's do East of Cooper Puzzle. And if I warp here, you see it takes me right here, and like it warps me right there. And then entrance is just like the different location you can enter the room from. So like here, there's 6 different entrances. See if I enter one, I open from the other side. And so you can just like, you know, set any of those. You can just pick whichever one you want and go there. So pretty self-explanatory otherwise. You can see a display of like where your current room is. If you want to like remember where to go for another time. And only other thing I can think of to mention is that entrances also, in addition to selecting like where you enter a room from, they can also control cutscenes. So like for instance, Flower Fields, and then Central Hub, and then I'll select like the very last entrance. So if I warp there, you can see like this is loading the epilogue, right? All right, I'm gonna warp away real quick before it starts continuing that cutscene. But so if you want, you can use that to warp directly into cutscenes too. Okay, so that's pretty much it for locations. Next thing you can do is you can warp directly to all the different bosses. They're organized. We got like the different Bowser fights. We got all the chapter bosses, Junior Troopa fights, minor bosses, optional bosses, and the dojo fights. And then another thing, you can warp. For Bowser, you can warp either to phase 1 or to phase 2 directly. It'll take you, like, for instance, if I warp to final phase 1, it'll warp me, like, right outside. The music doesn't update, which is kind of funny, but that's fine. You can also warp directly to phase 2, but if you just warp to phase 2, the actual HP the Bowser starts with will default to 0, and it sees that and it bumps it up to 1. And so I also have a menu here that lets you select like, oh, I want Bowser phase 2 to start with like 66 HP, and then you warp to final phase 2. But the rest of the bosses are just warp directly to their location. I can show off another one, like say you wanted to go to Tubba Blubba. You can see it does that and it starts the cutscene right outside, which is pretty cool. And then another thing that came up as a suggestion that I actually think is really cool. So there's a lot of different locations in this game. Like, for instance, in Bowser's Castle alone, there are 50 different rooms. So it can be kind of tedious to select the different rooms you want to go to, especially if you want to, like, practice movement in the same room over and over. So I actually added this favorite rooms menu, and what it lets you do is you can just select up to 10 different rooms that you can set to be whatever you want. Like, for instance, like if you hit current, it'll grab the current room you're in. And so now this is just a list of a bunch of different group rooms and entrances that you want to be able to load at will. And this is included, like when you save your settings, and I included a button down here to be able to do that. This will remember that, so you can just like hit the warp button and you'll warp directly to here. And you can change, one nice thing is like maybe you decide to change what you want to practice, and you can like change these all up as much as you want. But so yeah, that's very useful, and for practicing especially. And so that's pretty much it for the warps menu. Let's go ahead and move on to the cheats menu. So a couple things here. First, cheat menu, and this one is actually really cool. So this is a built-in debug setting. By default, encounters are set to normal, but if you select this and move it up, one of the options is no encounters. So if I set this to no encounters, I no longer interact with enemies. It's as though, I don't know, they're invisible or something, I guess. I don't know. Next option you have with it is defeat on contact, which means if an enemy touches me, I just automatically win the battle and the enemy disappears, which is also pretty cool. Next one is auto win, which means this one will actually enter the encounter, but then immediately all the enemies die. And this one also gives you the experience, which is nice. And then the last one, which actually I don't really know why you would ever want to do it, but the devs added it. This makes it so that as soon as you enter battle, you immediately run away. It looks kind of funny sometimes. The animations don't quite properly play, but it's an automatic free runaway, and it always works. So that's pretty cool. The next stuff, all of these cheat options are just like HP, make sure that your HP is always at max, FP always at max, coins always at 999. Star power, I don't actually have any star power right now, but that would be maxed out always. Like even if you know, this is like if you freeze a value in an emulator. Star pieces, maxes out your star pieces at 160 and keeps them there. Peril overrides takes precedence over HP, but that will make you stay at 1 HP. Even if you take damage, you'll still live. Break free makes it so you can move around during cutscenes. Auto mash makes it so that anywhere in battle where you have to like mash A to do something, that will automatically be 100%ed. And then Quizmo spawns is another dev built-in one. Which makes sure that it makes it so that everywhere that Quizmo can spawn, he always will spawn there. He will always spawn. So like, even if I go over here, and I'll demonstrate it. I go here, I answer the question, the answer to the first one is 1. He gives me the star piece, which, funny enough, won't actually do anything because I have a star piece cheat turn on, so it'll lower it to 160. Okay, but so I have this cheat on, which means that if I go through this loading zone and come back, normally Quizmo can never appear in the same place twice in a row before you go somewhere else. But boom, he's back. So that's cool. Alright, and that's pretty much it for cheats. By the time you're watching, it's possible that there will be more cheats than that, and you'll find that as a common theme. Things may look slightly different by the time that you get your hands on this if it's been updated, but that's more or less what it'll look like. All right, so next menu to go over is the player menu, and this one is more things in the game, I guess, like editing things. So like if you go to the status menu, this is all of Mario's things. Like right now I have just normal boots. You can change it to be super boots. You can change it to be ultra boots. My hammer is normal. You can change that to be either like none, no hammer. You can change it to be super hammer, ultra hammer. You can give yourself action commands. Don't actually need the lucky star for that. Change your max HP, yada, yada, yada. And then all this stuff. Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory for the rest of it. So that's cool. Partners menu, you can see right now I only have Goombario. I can go through and check all of these. And then now I have all the partners. You can also change their rank, so like I could make Paracarry Ultra rank. Boom, he has everything that comes along with that. Also included checkboxes for the 3 partners that you can never get but are in game. Well, technically you can get Twink with Peach, but no promises on these guys not being very buggy. That's just how they were programmed, but you can edit them. You can change who your active partner is. It won't actually update until you like reload the room, but you can do that. Moving on, items, stored items, key items, and badges are all very similar items. So Paper Mario doesn't actually make a distinction between those different types of items. Like all of those different things can go into this menu. You just select which ID. So like for instance right here, I have the Fire Flower. I have a Fire Flower. It shows up at the bottom of my inventory. But I can change that. Like for instance, I can put Prison Key 4 in my inventory. So I just, for simplicity, I added like the normal item range to the bottom just so you can see like, oh, these are the items that are normal items. So like I have a Fire Flower right now, but if I were to like, you know, change this to, I don't know, Tasty Tonic, then I could do that and then immediately I can just eat that Tasty Tonic. And then boom. Other things you can do, oh yeah, so it also stores icons, which is fun. This menu, these arrows can also be used to rearrange things. So spin, so it's spin, jump, and then jump. If I hit that, then it's jump and then spin, jump. Same holds for store items and key items. I'm not going to go ahead and bother showing them separately, other than to show that there are different pages for these ones. And then another thing for badges, the game actually automatically orders badges whenever you hit the pause menu. So if I was to say add Speedy Spin, which is, I believe, 11F. Yeah, so Speedy Spin. But what if I have that first? So if I pause, you see it actually changes it on its own. So badges will always be in the proper order. Let's go ahead and equip that because Speedy Spin is nice to have. I guess the arrows aren't as useful in the badge menu, but yeah, you get the idea. All right, and then next is the Star Power menu. So this controls how many star spirits you have. By default, the max you can go to is 7. So there's 7 bars full. If I lower that to 6, you see it goes down. This partial bar, it actually goes in increments of 20. So every 20 is another, notch up, I guess. And then you can also set whether you have the Star Beam or the Peach Beam. I will say this, you're never intended to have the Star Beam or the Peach Beam and fewer than 7 star spirits. So some funky things can happen if you set that. But that is, you can do whatever you want there, I guess. But don't blame me if it crashes. All right, next is the Princess Peach menu. This controls whether or not you are Peach. You can see it immediately changes my shadow. But if I reload the room with this, then now I am Peach. You can also set whether you have the parasol. Don't use it on most NPCs, that can crash. You can set yourself to be transformed into Koopa Troll, for instance. If I reload the room there, it crashed, so that's cool. See, this is what I'm saying. Going into weird states that you're not supposed to be in weird rooms, it can lead to issues, so be careful. And then also finally for the player menu, there is the Merly menu. This lets you select which type. So if I were to change this around, this shows what your next reward will be. Cast remaining is how many times Merly will appear, how many more times Merly will appear before you have to go purchase the curse again, and then how many battle turns remaining until the next spell is cast. All right, so that's pretty much it for the player menu. And then now so now moving on to the file menu. The first menu is really cool. I'm really proud of getting this working. So this lets you, like, if I hit save, that's exactly the same as hitting a save block. And you could even, I even made it real fancy. I made it play the save sound. If you hit load, you can actually load the file you're in. There's an extra menu there appearing that shouldn't, but that's okay. That'll be fixed. But in addition to being able to load the file that you're in currently, you can actually load other save files. If I change this to save slot 1 and hit load, I'm now in a completely different file. I think this is one of my all bosses practice files. And so I'm just now here along with everything that comes with it. The only thing that doesn't quite carry over is like normally a save block saves your position, and it does still save that, but loading it from the practice ROM, I can't. If there is a way to load it with the position, I don't know how to do it. But you can do that, and it's really nice. All right, next thing is the story progress. This is, if you don't know what that is, that's okay. You probably won't ever need to edit it unless you know what it is. But this controls like where in the game you are. And also I have like a little display. It's shown in hex. It's technically a signed integer, if you know what that is. But it's displayed in hex because that's how we generally refer to it. And so if I change this around, you can see it updates to show you like what chapter this story progress is in and like how many, like 37 out of 39. So like, you know, as I change this around, it like, oops, okay, well, sure, we're in chapter 5 now. If I take this 12 and make it 13, then now it went up by 1. Signed byte, my bad. And then a couple other things you can do here. You can turn off the music. I don't know why you would want to, but you can do it. I guess it's nice if you want to practice stuff and you want to play your own music in the background. I can turn that back on. Quizzes answered controls how many Quizmo questions you've answered. This is actually separate from what displays on the chalkboard, believe it or not. But this is the value that will control, you know, what the next Quizmo question you get asked is, and also like whether or not he can appear, like if you've answered all 64 questions or anything like that. The next 3 things are Peach items, so this controls at the end of chapter 3, whenever you pick with Peach, like what's going to appear next. Like for instance, right here. All right, let's actually, I want to display that one because it's actually really cool. Okay, so blue station is the one that controls what appears here. So by default, it'll just show a Goomba, so I'll show that off. Boom. Okay, and then let's load to before I did that. And then actually, if I change this to, oh, actually I wanted this to be the mushroom. And so I changed that to mushroom, and now whenever I go through here. And then she spawns a mushroom. So that way you can change it to whatever you want, which is cool. The other things I have, there's a button, if I click this, it will restore enemies you've defeated, and then there's more stuff that I want to add here, but for now I have a button that just restores all the letters you could have grabbed in the overworld. Probably we'll add things like star pieces and whatnot later, but for now that's what's there, and that's the file menu. Alright, and then moving on to the practice menu. This tricks menu, this is a fan favorite from the people who have been testing the ROM. Shout out to them, by the way. They've encountered a lot of stuff and helped make this a lot better. Is the tricks menu. And so what the tricks menu does is it takes care of anything that you could want to practice in the game. It takes care of setting all the different like story progress, flags, active partners, all that different stuff that you would need so that you can practice a trick over and over again. So like for instance, I have, say you wanted to do spike shield early and you wanted to practice that. And I go over here, you can see I can like try and grab the spike shield. Oh, I did it correctly. And so normally if you wanted to practice this again, you'd have to probably reload a save file because 1, you grab the spike shield, and 2, the Pokies are out of their coffins and they'll forever be out of their coffins. But if you just either select the trick again or do the command for it, which by default is hold R, press Z, you can just practice it over and over again. Boom. I want to do it again. Practice it again. Oh, I messed it up. And so you can see, you can just practice it over and over. And so, like, you can do that for basically any trick in the game you can think of. Like, I mean, there's a giant list sorted by chapter, and it includes, like, that was just an easy one to show off, like, it's showing the different states, but, like, Clippy Boots warps you over to here, it sets you to Lackey, make sure that the correct blocks have been broken, Blue House skip at the top, make sure that you're in a state where, and like top and bottom, because some categories you load it from the top, some you do BHS from the bottom loading zone, but that makes sure the logs aren't there, and then that the odd key is there in case you use that to line up for the pipe. Just a whole bunch of really different stuff for practicing any speedrun trick that you could possibly want to practice. And I've been adding to this a lot, so like if there's other stuff, there's definitely a chance that even more stuff gets added to this. But yeah, it is very cool, and I think it's probably the favorite feature of people who have been testing it out for speedrunning. Moving on, we've got a couple trainers. This is another thing that's going to see like a huge, this is one area where I want to improve on it a lot. But right now there are 3. So first off, we've got the Bowser block trainer, which that one I want to show off specifically. So let's warp to Bowser. Let's also go ahead and set some cheats so that I don't die. Okay, so once you're in the Bowser fight, what you can do is you can go to the trainer for Bowser blocks. You can enable it, and then what this will do, you see it's set to fire. This means that Bowser will just use fire over and over. So use fire there, I say do nothing, do nothing. Normally he would shield there because turn 2, nah, fire. So you can practice the same move over and over, especially useful if you want to do something like practice lightning, which is a move that he very rarely does. And then so you can just practice it over and over. I'll just keep doing it. Cool. You can also do the wave, and one nice thing about the wave is that if you have it set to this and you fail the action command, like say you fail to block it with your partner, normally that means your partner's out for 3 turns, so you can't practice blocking with your partner again. But with the Bowser block trainer enabled, now he'll only be out for 1 turn, which means that if I do nothing, he's back up and I can practice the block again. So that's very nice for practicing. This Bowser block trainer, it works in all 3 like versions of Bowser. Phase 1, final, phase 2, final, and it also works on hallway Bowser. Although do note, like if you're in hallway and you select wave, or sorry, if you select lightning, it'll just do wave because he doesn't have lightning. But yeah, that's the Bowser block trainer, which is very, very useful. If we go to Ice Staircase Skip, let's go ahead and show that one off real quick. That was actually, Ice Staircase Skip was one of the very first things that I added personally. So if I actually, this is a good chance to show off the tricks menu. If I go here, go to chapter 7, Ice Staircase Skip. And so then we go over here, and what this does is this trainer, if you bring it up, it'll show you when you are in a good position to clip. So you can see it can either be good, inconsistent, or bad. So like if I hop on Lackey right here and hold upright, it didn't work. And that's a great explanation of it. Technically, this trainer, the upright angle that you hold, actually, that's one of the things. It will turn green if your upright angle is good. So my upright angle wasn't good there, which explains why it didn't work. So let's actually do this again, this time with a good upright angle. So there, now it should work. Well, there, see, now I clipped in and I can do the actual trick. So that was actually a good demonstration of showing like how you can use this trainer to help get this trick. OOT Ace, I'm not going to get into this right now because I'm planning on doing a separate tutorial. Should be uploaded shortly after this one, once I do it. But this is for practicing stop and swap. Yeah, not going to get into it too much right now, but this exists. And that's pretty much the practice menu. And then there's also a timer. So a timer for practicing things. So let's go, I'll just go to Toad Town. Also, tiny thing. The warps are just laid out in the ways that the developers decided to lay them out. It is not my fault that the developers decided to put the main debug room hub as the first room of Toad Town. That's just the way the game is laid out. So, not my fault. All right, but so Toad Town, say you wanted to time doing something, some specific set of actions. The way this timer is set up is, so there's 2 different modes. There's automatic and manual. I'll start with automatic because it's by far the more useful one. And I'll set these to be mute. I'll show why they're not in a second. And I'm gonna set cutscene count to 2. And so what this means, I'm going to hit start on the timer. You can see it says it's waiting to start. And so the next time that I finish a cutscene, the timer will start. For the sake of explanation, say that I wanted to time, how long does it take me to enter this room, talk to a toad, and then leave the room? So that's 2 cutscenes, talking to the toad and then the next loading zone. And so I'm going to start, I'm going to close this, which because I have timer shown, it's going to show up. You can see as soon as I gain control, the timer starts. I talk to the toad, which counts as a cutscene. The timer keeps going, and then as soon as I enter that loading zone, the timer stopped. And so you can get really accurate timings using this timer and testing. Basically, there's a whole lot of flexibility with the whole cutscene count thing. And so, you know, use your imagination there on how you'd want to use that. I do also have checkboxes here for show timer and show logging, because displaying anything to the screen can actually introduce lag, which when you're timing stuff can be, you know, kind of not what you want. So you can uncheck these, and so it'll just be running in the background. It won't actually draw anything until the timer is stopped. And that actually does, if you save your settings with either of these checked or not checked, it'll remember that. And then the other thing, we have a manual mode. This is just like hit start, it starts. Hit stop, it stops. Hit reset, it resets. Pretty, you know, what you'd expect. And then there's also, I didn't mention it before, there is a lag counter. That counts how many 30 FPS frames of lag have occurred during the time that the timer's been going. You can see it going up and down. That is actually normal. This game, I don't know exactly how it works, but this game actually does try and account for lag sometimes and speed up the game. So if you see lag frames going down, that is actually like completely normal and just a way the game functions. And yeah, so that's the timer. And then the last thing that I want to show, most people probably won't really have much of a use for this unless you know what you're doing, but this is a flags editor. You can see all the different these are just bits, zeros and ones. Green means a flag is enabled, red flag means it's not. So you can enable those. They aren't labeled or anything, but you can see this log and you can like clear it. And so anytime you do something that like makes a flag appear, like I probably have a letter here. So if I give this letter, well, actually I don't know if giving the letter will cause what's something I can do to make a flag, some kind of flag happen. Okay, so that set a global flag. You can see that now Parakarry knows that he's been given the letter, and you know which flag it is. And so if you wanted to undo that, you can either hit the undo button, or you can scroll down to the proper flag. I have it keeping track of flags for all the different global flags, area flags, which are just for like the current group you're in, enemy defeat flags, which controls like what enemies and which rooms have been defeated. Typically they get cleared if you leave the current area you're in. Like the current group, but you can edit that manually here. And then also tattle flags, which just controls which enemies have been tattled and whatnot. And then finally, there's just straight up a memory editor. You can edit anything in RAM. Just enter the address that you want. You can see it. You can see it set as edited as a byte. You can edit it as a half word, as a full word. You can see how it's represented as a float and edit that. Probably don't edit that unless you know what you're doing. You can go to different, what's the proper term for this? Domains? I don't know. And edit all that different stuff. This is pretty much lifted straight from the Ocarina of Time practice ROM. So I don't know what all of this other stuff is. But if you do, you can edit it and you can see it. And you can do anything you'd want to do there. And yeah, that's pretty much it as far as what you can do, which I know that's a lot. I definitely have a lot more plans featured. Like for instance, one of the next few things that I want to do is start implementing, if you're familiar with GZ, the OOT practice ROM, one of the next things I want to do is implement RAM watches, so you can like monitor any different value in RAM. I want to be able to export and import save files onto SD card, and then a whole bunch of other things. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all that I had. Does anybody have any questions? Any plans on allowing us to create and save lists of badges / items to use later? I think that would probably be better covered by save files. So like I said, I'm planning on having it so you can, assuming I get this working, which I don't see any reason why I wouldn't be able to. I'm planning on having it so you can like export and import saves. So I feel like that would probably be better covered by that. So you can just import a save, like import your save for like a certain fight or something, and then that has you know all your stats set up how you want it. Would it be possible to display what frame you... That's something that I would really like to get added, Yord, but I've tried looking into it and haven't been able to figure it out yet. So if I can manage to get it working, or if someone else... Actually, that's something else that I should have mentioned. This project is open source on GitHub. Whenever you boot up the ROM, it actually displays a link to the GitHub. So, like, if that's something you want to look into and figure out, like, contributions to the project are very welcome. You are welcome to build it from source, edit it how you want, submit a pull request, stuff like that. To display proper timing on when to cancel your spin. Yeah, that's another thing. That's another thing that I think would be really useful is like a movement trainer. So like whenever you jump here, you could have it like pop up like, oh, you jumped out of your spin X frames too early or too late or something like that. Also, like I mentioned earlier, an LZS trainer that would tell you like why you failed an LZS jump. Stuff like that is definitely something that I want to get working. Yeah, that one, the spin one should actually be really easy to implement. List of all cutscenes. There's not really a list of all cutscenes in the game, but at least as far as all the different cutscenes that you can warp to, those are, and I probably should have specified this, so like entrance here. Generally speaking, the entrances, so like here, if I load Toad Town from, or let's do this room actually, Central Plaza. Generally, the first few entrances are going to be like different loading zones that you can enter from. But then the last few, if the room has it, are going to be cutscenes, which you can see he's kind of funny there. This might crash if I don't warp away soon enough. But yeah, you can see like that one was loading a cutscene. So there's not like a list of all cutscenes in the game per se, but generally the later entrances in a room are going to be the cutscenes if you want to load those directly. Is auto do nothing possible? Potentially. I don't want to promise anything on that one, but that's not a bad idea. Yeah, I can see the use case. I'm not sure how I would... one of the things I am not... This game is really heavy on using scripting for everything, and I do not understand the way this game... There's other people who understand the scripting a lot better than I do. I don't understand it that well. I certainly don't have a good way to interact with scripts directly right now, so I don't know. I feel like maybe that might have to happen first, so... For any other trainers for bosses, allowing you to pick which move they'll do. Maybe? Most of the bosses in this game, other than Bowser, actually do certain moves based on, like, how much HP that they have. I don't know, there aren't really that many other bosses where you would need to, like, where they wouldn't just do the move right away that you need to block. Potentially. I wouldn't say I have any current plans for it, but potentially. Also, I'm not actually super happy with the way that I'm implementing the Bowser trainer right now. It works well enough, but I'm doing it by just like freezing the RNG value once a frame, which means that sometimes with the Bowser block trainer, very rarely you might get the wrong move. So maybe once I understand battles a bit more, I'd be more inclined to do that stuff. Or if someone else, like this doesn't have to be just me. So another thing that I kind of have planned, one thing that I know that GZ has in the debug menu is like, for instance, there's an actors menu where you can just like see all the different like an actor would be like, this Toad isn't, all the different NPCs are actors. Anything you can interact with is an actor. Basically anything that isn't like world geometry, I guess, is an actor. And so you could like look through all those and see data about it. And I've actually I understand actors a bit for battles now. That was something that I have been working with as of late. But I don't know, like debug menus for that. And then also some kind of, if there was a way to have a menu like that for scripts or something, I think would be really cool. Would there be a folder of these kinds of saves in FP? Yeah, so the way that it would look like, so it's not implemented right now, but like basically what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to access the file system on your EverDrive SD card. But that's another thing. Right now, this is only supported on N64, and I guess technically emulator too. There is currently no Wii VC or Wii U VC support. That's something that I would really like to get added in the future, but there is no promise for that. But right now, the intended way to use this is either on an emulator or better yet on an EverDrive that's loading it from like an SD card that you put this on. This is written in C, the same thing that the game itself is written in. I think that's probably all the questions. Again, thank you to everybody who has been testing this and the people that I thanked at the beginning of the video for helping make this possible. I would very much appreciate if anyone wants to contribute to the project. I very much would encourage that, because it'd be really cool to have people besides just me developing it. There is also likely going to be a channel in the Paper Mario speedrunning Discord created for help with it. Oh, there's also a manual. That's another thing I forgot to mention. I have a manual written up that there will also be a link to that explains how to use it. Pretty much everything that I covered and more, and it will be updated as the ROM is updated. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you for watching, everybody. Feel free to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. But yeah, have a good day, everybody.